Well, it's Pastor Bill here. We are going to be returning next Sunday, the Lord willing, to evening services, and so this will be the last in one of these video messages that we release Sunday evening, and this one is quite unique. I had a very busy week, in part because I had an all-day church meeting Friday and Thursday evening, and then I officiated a wedding on Saturday, which is today for me. I just completed the ceremony, and so I thought, in lieu of producing a separate video, I would just record an intro to the message that I delivered, because it is somewhat unique. The individuals I officiated the wedding for are friends, Jian and Chen, but they're not Christian believers, and yet I readily agreed to do their wedding because I'm a big fan of marriage and I'm friends with Jian and Chen. They are both very astute individuals. Jian obtained his PhD in engineering recently, and Shen is completing her PhD at McMaster in Engineering presently. And so I thought I would deliver a very brief message about love from a Christian standpoint. So I thought I would choose a verse from a very well-known chapter in the Bible about love, 1 Corinthians 13, and I focused in on verse 5 if you want to read that on your own in advance before listening to the message, 1 Corinthians 13:5. But I really wanted to deliver a message that was short but helpful, and one that accented the story of the love of Christ. And so you can discern for yourself whether I was effective or not. It was a very enjoyable experience. It was a small crowd. Most of those in attendance were, in fact, PhD students, it seems, and professors from McMaster University, a very specific demographic, very nice people, very enjoyable time for me, and I really hope and pray that God will greatly enrich the marriage of Jian and Chen. Listen in, enjoy the message, and we'll be resuming evening worship next Sunday evening. Thanks. Well, I want to offer a brief message about marriage, and I'm going to read from a passage in the Bible. The Bible, for those of you who are not familiar with it, consists of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And in the New Testament, we have numerous letters that were written by leaders in the early church known as apostles. And probably the most famous of the apostles is the Apostle Paul. And he wrote a famous chapter about love in his letter to the Corinthians. Corinth was a city in Asia Minor, modern day Turkey, or Greece rather, what am I thinking? And I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 13, which is a chapter about love, and then I want to speak about one verse in particular that I hope will offer you some encouragement as you get married this morning. Here the Apostle Paul writes, "If I speak in the tongues or the languages of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all that I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." And I want, in the time that we have together, Jian and Shen, to zero in on one verse in this passage from 1 Corinthians 13. And the verse is verse 5, where Paul writes, love does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Dear bride and groom and friends who are with us for this occasion, everyone knows that love is the greatest thing in the world. Without love, our personalities literally disintegrate. If there is no love in our lives, we as human beings languish. We simply do not flourish. I'm very fond of something that the 16th century Roman Catholic poet wrote. He said this, "Not when I breathe, but when I love, I live." Not when I breathe, but when I love, I live. Now the two of you, as I understand it, and some of our guests with us this morning are engineers and scientists. And so I want to quote to you something from Bertrand Russell, a name with which you might be familiar, a famous philosopher and mathematician. You might find it odd for a Christian minister to quote an atheist philosopher and mathematician, but I think once you hear the quote, you'll understand why I'm reading it. It's from his book, The Impact of Science on Society. And in this particular book, he is lamenting what he calls, the reduction of humanity into a machine. And it's very popular now, right? To conceive of the brain as a computer, to see human beings essentially as robots. And Bertrand Russell wanted to protest that. And here's what he writes. "The root of the matter is a very simple and old-fashioned thing, a thing so simple that I am almost ashamed to mention it, for fear of the derisive smile with which wise cynics will greet my words. The thing I mean, please forgive me for mentioning it, is love. Christian love or compassion. If you feel this, you have a motive for existence, a guide in action, a reason for courage, an imperative necessary for intellectual honesty." What the great philosopher and mathematician said, ultimately what we need most is love. Now I want, in the short time that we have together, on the basis of this text from 1 Corinthians, is provide a little bit of the recipe for love by singling out 4 ingredients. Love is honorable, love is selfless, love is calm, and love is gracious. And then offer, to complete the recipe, 2 instructions about love. Does that sound fair? Okay, first then, love is honorable because Paul in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5 says, love does not dishonor others. Love is honorable. Now, in most careers, in most professions, as you would know, there is often a code of professional conduct. And if you're a lawyer, for example, you have to abide by the Law Society's code for professional conduct. And if you violate that code, well, you are disbarred as a lawyer. And I want to suggest to you this morning that the code for marital conduct is honor. We need to honor each other and not dishonor each other. You, the two of you, Gian and Shen, know each other well, but over the course of your married life, you will get to know each other more, and you will find out private details about your life, which, if disclosed, might cause embarrassment or shame. And you must have the confidence in each other, and you must never share publicly anything that would cause shame or embarrassment for the other. Love is honorable. It does not dishonor others. Secondly, love is selfless. And what the Apostle Paul says here specifically is love is not self-seeking. It doesn't seek one's own interests first. It seeks the interests of the other first. Now, for Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, this was a sign of weakness, and I want to suggest to you instead that it is a sign of strength. And that there are times when out of love for the other, in service to the other, we actually relinquish our own rights and our own interests. In order for the other to be full, we sometimes need to empty ourselves. In order for the other to enjoy rest, we sometimes have to work. And Jesus in the Bible dramatizes this, exemplifies this very clearly in a famous episode from his ministry. It's narrated in the New Testament, where on one occasion he got down on his knees and filled the basin with water, and he washed the feet of his disciples. Imagine that. The master washing the feet of his apprentices, the teacher washing the feet of his students. Now I know one of you has a teacher here. I wonder if he has ever washed your feet. I've never had a teacher wash my feet. But it's exemplifying this idea where you sacrifice something, you relinquish something out of concern for others. You know, this very same Apostle Paul wrote about this very clearly in another letter in Philippians chapter 2, where he says, "Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same mind, being of one spirit and of one mind. Do nothing," he says, "out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used for his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking on the very nature of a servant, and being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." Love is selfless. It's honorable. And it's selfless. And then thirdly, it is calm. Because the apostle says love is not easily angered. If you are fixated on yourself, if you are preoccupied with your own interests, you will find that you're easily irritated, easily angered. If you are a person who's fixated exclusively on himself or herself, you will find that the world is against you. And everyone has an enemy, including your spouse. But if you live with this kind of selfless love, your love will not be easily angered. Your love will be calm. Fourthly, lastly, you're wondering if I was going to talk forever, and I'm not actually. Fourthly, love is gracious. What the apostle says specifically is that love keeps no record of wrong. The lover is not an accountant who keeps a ledger of rights and wrongs and wants to ensure that accounts are always settled. Love doesn't keep a record of wrong. This means that we need to be gracious and merciful with each other, patient, recognizing that there are moments, aren't there, when we're anxious, when we're sleep deprived, and we may see and do things that are out of character. Forbear with each other, be patient with each other, and most importantly, forgive each other. Now, for Christians, forgiveness is the opposite of resentment. And resentment is the desire and the resolve to pay someone back, to settle accounts. And so if you slap me in the face, resentment means that I desire to slap you back in the face. But forgiveness is absorbing the pain of the offense and promising not to retaliate. And again, for Christians, this is exemplified very dramatically in the story of Jesus, and in particular in his death on the cross. Because God created us to love him and to love our neighbors as ourselves. That is the heart of the Bible's message. And because we fail to do so, and we often fail, we incur guilt, and we personally offend God. But the remarkable thing of the Bible's message is that the Creator has sent his Son, who is Jesus, the Son of God, and on the cross he absorbs the pain of the penalty so that we can be innocent, so we can be forgiven. Grace, you see, is the opposite of karma. Karma says what goes around comes around. Karma says you get what you deserve. Grace says you get what you don't deserve. You get forgiveness. You get kindness. Love is honorable. Do not dishonor others. Love is selfless. It's not self-seeking. Love is calm. It's not easily angered or irritated. And love is gracious. Finally, 2 instructions with which to close. First of all, love requires the formation of character. Love isn't just a matter of feelings. Feelings come and go. Love is a choice. And we must make the choice every day. And every day, Jian and Shen, when you wake up, you must say, I choose to love Shen. I choose to love Jian. Even in those moments when Shen and Jian are unlovable. Love, you see, is a habit that we form. It's a discipline that we practice. I'm very fond of what the philosopher Dallas Willard says about a discipline. He says, a discipline involves doing what we can in order to do what we can't. If you can run a marathon. But it doesn't mean that you could just wake up one day and say, I'm going to run a marathon. But you do what you can run in order to do what you can't run a marathon. And what we have here in these verses, in these ingredients, are disciplines to practice, to form the character of love. Secondly, lastly, love requires a divine resource. This is my conviction, and I submit it to you for your consideration. I do not believe that humans have the capacity to love well apart from divine resources. And it's my conviction as a Christian minister that we obtain those resources in relationship with God through Jesus Christ. So love is the greatest thing in the world. Not when I breathe, but when I love, I live. And Shen and Jian, I wish you the very best in your marriage, and I promise to pray for you, the sacrifice of my own time, to pray for you that your love would be honorable, selfless, calm, gracious, enduring, and that your marriage would be characterized by joy and by happiness.